This is a Montie moment. I'm Johnny Montalbano. It's been a little over 4 months since Nikola Jokic and the Denver Nuggets beat the Miami Heat for their first NBA championship, and now the quest for a repeat begins tonight as they're in action. And, you know, with the NBA season being back, I had to invite a buddy, so I brought Nick Morgasen from Empty the Bench with me. Nick, welcome. How are you?
Johnny, the NBA season is back. The good season is back. Let's go.
Yeah, absolutely. You know, when I thought about this, I said, all right, I have to get you aboard for this. I know Nick's a Net fan. I am a huge Knicks fan, as you can tell right here. I'm excited for this, Nick. You know, NBA is always my first sport. I grew up watching, so you know, it was the first jersey that I ever owned was a John Starks Knicks jersey. So it always owns it's always a little bit of a special feeling. But you know, it's nice for us also because now we have all four major sports to discuss, and you know, we have a lot to look forward to here in this 23-24 season, Nick. You know, Damian Lillard is now part of a superstar duo with Giannis and his new 3-year max deal with the Bucks. The Celtics countered that by trading for Kristaps Porzingis and Drew Holiday. Bradley Beal's joining a dynamic duo there in Phoenix. Chris Paul is with the Warriors, and James Harden still wants out of Philadelphia. And boy, what a mess that is, and we'll get to that. So the other thing too, Nick, I'm excited to see the talented rookies take center stage. Obviously, all the sensation of Victor Wembanyama has us stunned already with the preseason that he's had. I wouldn't sleep, though, on Chet Holmgren coming back off the foot injury that he had that cost him his rookie year last year, and Scoot Henderson with the Trailblazers. And I have to mention this, though, Nick, to you as well, and I know you're going to react to this, but LeBron James in his 21st season, going to make one final run in the title there with the revamped Lakers squad. So what did you think about everything, and what are you looking forward to this year?
Well, I'll refer to that one first since you decided to go to the LeBron route. Yes, I'm starting a LeBron haterade early on the ETV network. So Paul Lombardi from the 3&D on our network was saying that he came out and said he's ready to take the NBA by storm, and he's ready to take revenge against the Nuggets, as that's the big matchup for opening night. But I don't see them competing as much. I mean, I have to look at their over-under because I didn't really look, but it's got to be somewhere in the realm, I would say, of 47, 48 wins. I still don't like the LeBron-AD tandem. It has not worked since LeBron has gotten to LA. Now, Laker fans are going to be, oh, Nick, they won a title. They won a title. All right, calm down. It was 2020 in the bubble where everybody had a disadvantage, and because you didn't have to travel, everyone got to play. I don't think they're a good team, Johnny. I just don't. Do you think they're a good team?
I think they're a playoff team. I actually think they're a top. You know why I think they're a playoff team? Because I think there's going to be two teams in the West that are going to fall this year. And it actually leads me to my next point. There's two players that to watch for, in my opinion, as the season tips off. Ja Morant, who's suspended for the first 25 games, and Zion Williamson, who's played 29 games the last two seasons combined. And I actually think the Nuggets are going to not the Nuggets, the Grizzlies are going to take a fall this year because Morant is going to miss about a third of the season just in suspension, and we don't know if he's going to get hurt. And also Steven Adams there being out for pretty much the season, I think is actually a huge blow to them. They still have some good players on that team, but without Morant, who is a star, albeit a troubled one, I think that's a blow. And also with the Pelicans are kind of that mystery team because Zion looks good, but you know what's a realistic. You know, I'm talking about an over-under. What's a realistic game total for him? I'm thinking if everything goes well, 60.
Maybe. I mean, I just want to go back because what you said about the Grizzlies. I'm looking at the standings from last year. I forgot where they finished. They were a 2 seed. Right. The Grizzlies are not going to be a 2 seed this year. We'll throw that one way out the window, especially with Morant being out 25 games. And also their injury. Steven Adams, even though people are going to say, "Oh, Steven Adams, he's a decent guy." Like he was on OKC for all those years and really held that team together. By the way, best teammate, one of the best teammates in the NBA, in my opinion, is Steven Adams. He will go to bat and fight for his team that he is on. He is kind of like your rah-rah, hold the team together type guy. So I don't know how many games. So they won 51 games last year. They're definitely not winning 51 games this year. I'll tell you that right now. I think they might. Well, I'm going to say this a lot, but they're going to go free falling, like Tom Petty would say. Yeah. I think they're going to drop out, possibly. I think like they might miss the playoffs the way that this is going. Don't get me wrong. They brought in Smart via trade from Boston, which was a great pickup. No doubt, he will anchor that team defensively. He can even score when the team needs it most. But I see them dropping to out. That's really what I see at this point, because Morant is really the heart and soul of that team, which is bad, as you said before, because you don't know what he's doing. He's a wild card. But I think they drop out with Morant and now Adams being out for the year.
Yeah, that 2-7 matchup last year with the Lakers, I remember we were discussing it on Game On last year, how the Lakers got him at a very, very good time. I know you don't see many upsets in the NBA playoffs because usually the best team, the best talent wins. But that was a Memphis team that Morant was coming back from his first suspension. Then he got hurt, and the Lakers were playing their best basketball of the year at the time and rode it pretty well. So yeah, if they're going to win 51 games, it's going to be a very they're going to have to play great second half of the year, it would look like. And that right now, I don't know if they could do that.
Over under 45.5 as we speak now. I think under. I do.
I think that is an under. Yeah, actually, I have them as at best a play-in team, and we'll get to the Western Conference. And actually, Nick, let's start there, because if you look at the Western Conference, this feels like it's the Nuggets versus the field. Clearly, the Nuggets and the Suns, in my opinion, are the clear contenders. You know, I'm going to divide this Western and Eastern Conference up into multiple categories here. And in the clear contenders, to me, it's the Nuggets and the Suns. And really, if you want to go specifically, it's the Nuggets, because if you look at this Denver team, how do teams repeat in sports? It's something we haven't seen a lot of in professional sports in recent years, but it helps to have pretty much the same cast of characters back after winning a championship, and that's what Denver has. They're bringing back their entire starting five that hoisted the Larry O'Brien Trophy last June. They have the best player in the world in Nikola Jokic, and arguably the best duo in the league with him and Jamal Murray. Now, Bruce Brown is not there. That might be a little bit of a hiss, but to me, the Nuggets contender status is not in question. Now, in saying that, the Suns are a clear contender, but it does come with some risk, because there's no question about the top-end talent with Kevin Durant, with Devin Booker. You add in Bradley Beal there. They form a pretty elite trio. But the Suns' offense is going to put up a lot of points. The question is around their defense and around their depth, which I think in the NBA you need depth as much as you need starters. It's both things that the Nuggets exposed in the offseason. Did they fix those issues in the offseason? That's going to be the million-dollar question. I think they're going to win a lot of regular season games. I think they're going to finish in the top 3 in the West. I do think they'll also, over the course of an 82-game season, they're going to find the defense and the rotations that are going to make them a threat to win it all. You just wonder about the health of Kevin Durant, because that's something we always talk about here. But so to me,
man,
I think my clear contenders, though, are the Nuggets and the Suns.
I mean, there are, like you said, there are a ton of questions with the Suns. The Suns number 51.5. I think that's about right. I wouldn't go really much over or much under. I think 50 wins or 51 wins is solid. There's already some injury concerns with Bradley Beal already. Yeah. And as of this recording, the season will just be about getting underway. But you can't have concerns with Bradley Beal already. How is that possible? You just signed him to a massive, or you traded for him and then he has the massive money. That's a problem, that he's already hurt. You don't have a floor general really anymore. You got rid of Chris Paul, who's now with the Warriors, which we'll get to, but you don't have a floor general. Is KD going to be floor general? No. Every time we've seen that, what's happened? Massive failure when he's the floor general. Then you have guys like Booker and who's the other guys they have? Who's the big man that they have that they were threatening to trade in the offseason?
DeAndre Ayton.
Who I don't like really either. I think he's got some attitude and ego problems. He had some problems with Monty Williams when he was the head coach. Now they have Frank Vogel, which I really don't think is a upgrade by any means. The Suns were just desperate for a head coach. This kind of reminds me of the first Miami Heat team, if you remember, where they really had no bench in the championship years. And they kind of, when they had Bosh and Wade and LeBron, they overmaxed their roster. So they had to go out and get crumbs off the free agency market for minimum contracts. That's what this feels like with the Suns. They don't have a bench at all. And they pretty much sacrificed it in the trade to the Nets when they traded KD. So 51 games is doable, but they're going to be the best regular season team. I don't see them going far in the playoffs. I think they're going to struggle because, again, they need to relearn themselves like Miami did. Remember, they went to the finals in their first year, and they lost to Dallas. And then after that, that's when they picked up once team chemistry came together. So, yeah, they're going to win a lot of games in the regular season, but I'm going to question how far they go in the playoffs.
Give you a couple of guys that the Suns brought in here, too, this offseason. Grayson Allen in a trade from Milwaukee late September. They also got Yusuf Nurkic, the big man from Portland, in the end of September, along with Nasir Little. So, yeah, I'm looking at their roster, and obviously, look, the top three are as good a three as you can have here with Booker, Beal, and Durant, as long as they're healthy. But after that, I mean, Grayson Allen's okay. I mean, I don't think he's anything special. Yusuf Nurkic is all right. But I'm looking at a lot of these other guys, and they're guys that, unless you're a diehard NBA fan, you don't really know about. Yuta Wannabe, he was a former Net, right?
Yeah.
And Drew Eubanks, I mean, I know about him, but I mean, they're not names that really like strike you as
they're filling out the roster. That's what they're essentially doing.
But you know what though, and with the injury history with Kevin Durant, I kind of think that you have to try and fill that roster. Now, I think it can work, and like I said, like I was just saying a couple moments ago, over the course of an 82-game season, I think they'll be able to fit those pieces in. I still think though, because of that potential talent, that they are going to be a top 3 seed there in the in the Western Conference, I should say. But I still think right now it's the Nuggets and everybody else. And that brings me to my go ahead, Nick. You want to say one other thing?
Oh, I was just going to say the roster numbers. Excuse me. The Bradley Beal making 46, Durant making 47. That's your problem right there.
Yeah, we've seen that a lot when it comes to big time talent. Is if you overspend for guys and you bring in a lot of people on the veterans minimum, or people from like the G League or something to fill out that roster. And as much as we talk about the stars, it also is those valuable pieces too. And that's what happened with Denver. I mean, obviously we know it was all Jokic, but they also had some pieces that filled in as well. That was always my concern with Denver last year, was their depth, but it worked out in their favor. Then it gets me to the next category, Nick, and that's contenders with questions. And to me, that I have 2 teams that fall into that category, and it's the Warriors and the Lakers, because they're 2 teams that are in a race with Father Time. They're both capable of contending if things go their way, but neither team, in my opinion, has room for error. For the Warriors, Steph Curry, I think, has to remain a top 10 player, even though he's in his age 36 season. Chris Paul's got to lift the Warriors' second unit in the non-Curry minutes, and Klay Thompson's got to get back to closer to his pre-injury self. And if you look at the Lakers upgraded their role players around their stars. Taurean Prince, Gabe Vincent, D'Angelo Russell, Austin Reeves, possibly. But, this team still relies on 2 aging superstars. LeBron James, who turns 39 in December, and is Anthony Davis also ready to take over the mantle, the team's number 1 option, be a defensive player of the year candidate? I think that all has to work out in the Lakers' favor. Now, can it? We saw it at times last year that it could, but that's why they can contend, but there's still some question marks with them.
Yeah, the Lakers are going to be an interesting team to watch. LeBron, you already know my thoughts on LeBron. I think LeBron should have retired, actually. I know that's a hot take, but he's not going to go out missing the playoffs. He's going to want to come back, make the playoffs. I know he's waiting for his son Bronny to come out of USC so he could play on a team, so they'll create another whole circus of that regard. But I look at this roster. There's nothing that scares me on this roster at all. LeBron and AD, that's not really scary to me. I feel like there are better duos out there, in my opinion, at least. I would take Giannis and Damian Lillard over them. So,
sorry, go ahead.
No. I was just going to say there are way better duos. I would take Giannis and Lillard by far over them.
I would say though, I could see that, but I would also look at who are the pieces around them too. Who's got a better supporting cast. And I think
the Bucks. The Bucks.
I think the Lakers supporting cast is better than before, but can they also do it? We saw last year one of the moves they made was for Hachimura, and Hachimura made a pretty significant advantage to the Lakers last year too. He stepped in and had some moments too. So that's what we always say. We talk about the stars, but it's also those secondary players that step in. And the Lakers did get that at times last year before they ran into the Nuggets, who just pretty much ran over everybody last year.
But what about Anthony Davis? That's the big question mark on this roster. Is he going to be healthy? We don't know.
Yes, that's all fair. That's why I said, I think it's big. D'Angelo Russell, Vanderbilt. I mean, they've got. It's not a bad roster. I mean, again. That's why I say there's question marks, but they definitely will. I think be there in the contending role.
Over under 47.5 wins.
That's kind of like what they were at last year. I think it could be a slight under.
Yeah,
that's
I agree.
But I think they are. I think because of the falls of some other teams, I think they're going to be in like the 4 or 5 seed category this year.
I mean, obviously, not that it really mattered. Like Dame going west to east, like obviously, like those were matches. Even though Portland was not great, at least Dame could lead that team to will some wins out of it. But now that he's over in the east, another star going west to east. I mean, but I don't know. I could say I could see it being 45, but I could also see it being 49. I mean, but I think it's going to be under.
That's why we say the contenders with questions. And then that leads us to me, Nick, there are 8 teams in the West that fall into this playoffs or bust category with the Western Conference. And that's the Grizzlies, the Mavericks, the Kings, the Thunder, the Clippers, the Timberwolves, the Pelicans, and the Jazz. And of those 8, 4 of them will not make the playoffs. 2 will not make the play-in. So it could get interesting next summer for whichever teams fall short. Now, I spoke to you about this before we started. I have concerns with the Grizzlies. No John Morant for almost the first third of the season. No Steven Adams for it looks like the entire season. They do have the defensive player of the year in Jaren Jackson Jr. They have an underrated Desmond Bane. They added maturity in Marcus Smart and Derrick Rose. So the potential is there. But after how last season ended, I need to see it before I can call them a contender. Dallas, to me, they have Luka Doncic and Kyrie Irving. If those guys are right, but I don't like their defense. And I saw the Kings, and I thought they looked like last year's team, an elite in the preseason with an elite offense with Domantas Sabonis and De'Aaron Fox, but no defense. And, they're going to have a full healthy year too. And we don't really know. Can that happen? The Thunder have Alexander, and they look like a team that's ready to take a step forward with Chet Holmgren at the 5, but how big of a step? The Clippers, they're contenders on paper. If we ever talk about a team on paper being a contender, that's the Clippers. But you want to bet on Kawhi Leonard and Paul George's health? I won't do that.
I certainly wouldn't. The Clippers are a mess in every way. And now they're talking about reportedly trading for James Harden.
Well, put him far west. That's fun. And destroy another team, right? That would be a great idea.
I mean, you're talking about 3 guys that don't need attention right now. That would just drag more attention on the Clippers.
Yeah. Enjoy all that West Coast basketball. Timberwolves were 5-0 in the preseason. They looked like a team that could take a step forward from last year. I think Anthony Edwards he looks ready to break out next to Karl Anthony Towns and Rudy Gobert, but it's another case where it's hard to buy in a team without seeing it work for a half a season. The Pelicans, I think, could win 50 games and be a threat if Zion and Brandon Ingram are healthy. But again, are you willing to make that bet? I'm not. As I said, I'd sign up right now for 60 from Zion, and maybe that's a little bit of a stretch considering he's only played 29 combined the last 2 years. The Jazz have an athletic front line, and John Collins only adds to that, but are Colin Sexton and rookie Keontae George ready to play at this point? I'm not really sold in Utah any more than a playoff roster. So that's where I have it at.
They're a bunch of draft picks, essentially, Utah. They just keep racking and racking and racking. They're not competing. I don't know what first of all, they should have a rule about the amount of draft picks and capital you can take in from trades, I feel like. But that's
OKC on that.
No, I'm serious, though, because all they're doing is bagging up first-round picks. All right, I have first-round picks. Who wants a first-round pick?
Hey, you know what? I mean, that's what you get though in a fire sale, though, and stuff.
I get it, but like when I look at some of these teams, Utah, not great. The Pelicans, you have the whole thing with Zion. I think that team's going to drop, completely be out. I don't see them competing, really. The Zion issue is going to cloud them all season. I'm surprised we haven't heard from what's her name and all her social media nonsense. But yeah, I don't see them coming back. OKC, obviously they have Chet Holmgren. He was great. He was injured, but he can be great.
Mm-hmm.
But he's got to come back and play. Got to go on the court. You can't be an off the court guy. You got to play. Timberwolves. Okay, that's the best answer I can give for them. They're not They're not here. They're not there. They're like the middle of the pack. They're always going to compete for a playoff spot, but they're never going to win anything. And I kind of feel bad for Karl Anthony Towns.
If the season was much shorter, I could put the Timberwolves up there as a contender.
Maybe.
I think it works for part of the year, but can you bank on it for 82 games?
No. And then like you look at teams like Houston. Houston's a joke in every way, shape, or form. And of course, they brought in the biggest joke to be their head coach. So that they're going nowhere. They spent a ridiculous amount of money on the free agent from Toronto.
Fred VanVleet.
What are they paying? Like $38 million a year? I mean, like, they overspent for a team that's not going to make the playoffs. So, unless James Harden magically ends up getting traded back to Houston, which I doubt.
No. That is why there's this next category. I actually put the Houston Rockets in, and that is quote unquote hopeful play-in team. And and to me, it is the Rockets because they did spend big this summer, like you said, with VanVleet, Dylan Brooks to go along with Jalen Green and company. And I'm curious, Ime Udoka now, after a year being suspended, how does he do as coach? I think he will have them defended, but there's a long way to go for them to be good. They'll be better, but the conference is too deep in that regard. So they're hopeful, but they're not there.
Can I give you a hot take? I think that Ime Udoka is not a good coach. I don't think he's a good coach. Like, people say, oh, he's a player's guy and blah, 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 blah. I don't think he's a good coach. I think he just motivates players. That's all he's doing.
Let's see what he does down there in Houston, because he had some good talent there in Boston, but now down in Houston, it's a different scenario.
Well, Boston's not Houston, as you just said. Boston's got great players. You have a Jason Tatum and Jaylen Brown and all those guys up in Boston. Now you're going to a Fred VanVleet and question marks.
Mm-hmm.
So
see Houston being that spoiler to some teams maybe later in the year.
And by the way, Dylan Brooks, really?
No, that's fair. I mean, that's why I say I would call them the hopeful playing team, because they think maybe bringing in Udoka and a couple of those guys would at least get them into the playoffs, a playing game. But I just don't think with how those other teams we're talking about in the West, unless, you start talking about some major injuries. I mean, could you see maybe Memphis taking that big of a free fall where maybe a team like Houston would benefit from that? I don't think Memphis takes that big of a fall. I think they take a fall, but I don't think they take that big of a fall.
I think both teams are. Memphis is better of those two, obviously, but they're both over the last couple of years were supposed to be higher up, and now they're dropping off the rails. I mean, Memphis, like I said, if Morant's there, they're at least a 5 seed, a 4 or 5 seed, at least. Houston, there's nobody, so I can't really make any precautions for them.
So you like how I divided these categories up, right? Because you can definitely see the scenario where all this happens. And then finally, lottery-bound teams. And ironically enough, we talk about lottery-bound teams, but these are two of the most fun teams on the board, and that's the Spurs and the Trailblazers, because while they won't win many games, you look, obviously the Spurs have Wembanyama, who looks better than advertised. Scoot Henderson could be special for the Blazers, but both of these teams have a long way to go and a lot of rebuilding to do to jump up to levels. It's going to be, I mean, it'll be fun to watch the rookies, but after that, there's not much with these two teams. But
I'll give you a mark. I'll give you a mark right now, and you can mark it, and we can go back and watch the tape at the end of the season.
Yep.
Portland will be the number 1 overall pick at the end of the season. I think Wembanyama wins them games, actual games. I don't think Scoot Henderson is winning actual games for Portland. So that's the difference right there.
Now, see, when that happens, though, you need two things to happen. You need, they got to maybe finish with the worst record, and then the lottery has to work in their favor too. So, but I get what you're saying though with that. So actually, they could be the third worst team, and you might be right though. They might end up with the first pick, right?
I think they're going to end up with. First of all, you and I have talked about this a long time. The lottery system needs to go away, in my opinion. I think they should just do it the way the NFL does it, MLB does it. Get with the times.
Well, I don't see that happening though. Unfortunately, anytime soon. So then that brings us to the Western Conference as a whole. Where do we see it ending standings wise, Nick? I'm going with the Nuggets 1, the Suns 2. I'm going to take the Warriors 3 and the Lakers 4, and I'm going to go with the Timberwolves, Kings, Pelicans, and Clippers to wrap it up. And then the 2 play-in teams. are going to be the Thunder and the Grizzlies. I think that's how far the Grizzlies fall. I think they fall into a playoff spot. Now, you can easily flip-flop with the Clippers there, but I'm confident in the top four, but after that, it's wide open for playoff spots.
Yeah, I mean, I see Denver. I don't know if Denver will be a 1. I think it's tough to repeat as a 1 seed conference after winning a title coming off a long season, but I'll go with Denver's 1. Then I don't know. I don't see the Suns. Like everyone is like so high on the Suns. Chemistry is going to be a problem there. I just have a feeling, and it's KD. I see the Nuggets being 1. Excuse me. I see the Warriors being 2. Who else do I say? Excuse me. Ooh. Then I see the Suns being 3. Who else do I see? Maybe the Lakers as 4 or 5. That because the Western Conference kind of drops and takes a dip after that. Maybe the Clippers at 5. And then I would just smatter everybody else because again, you don't know. You could call the top 5, but you don't know what the rest of the conference is going to be. So I have Denver 1, Golden State 2, Suns 3, Lakers 4, maybe Clippers 5. See it that way.
Yeah, it is wide open after that, and we'll get to our NBA Finals predictions in just a few minutes. But let's switch conferences. Let's go East, Nick. And remember when the East used to be a laughingstock? Well, the last several years, it's been more competitive than ever. And as you can see, I'm a Knicks fan. I know that we're actually competitive, and so are a lot of others. When it used to only be 1 or 2 teams in the East, and then other teams were getting to the playoffs with like 36, 37 wins. But it's not like in other sports where you just get in and you have a chance, because we know in the NBA, home court and talent ruled the world. But let's get to the clear contenders in the East, and not to sound like Captain Obvious here, but it's the Bucks and the Celtics. I mean, it's these two, and then it's a big gap to everyone else. And don't let the regular season fool you, though, because it's possible that one of these teams starts slowly as they work out fits and the system, which kind of feels more like that with Boston, or an injury that creates rooms for a team like Cleveland to climb. But, I mean, the way things are looking right now, it's hard to see anything else but a Boston-Milwaukee Eastern Conference Finals right now. So I have to start with those two at the top.
Yeah, those are the most obvious. Obviously, Milwaukee made the move and got Damian Lillard in the trade. Big time to keep Giannis, because there was a lot of rumors going on that Giannis might leave. And obviously, it just broke over the last couple of days. Giannis got a 3-year, $168 million deal, which I couldn't believe. I was kind of shocked. But they are the number 1 duo. They have some great pieces around him. So, yeah, I see them as a 1. Excuse me. Then I see the Celtics as a 2 with Tatum and Brown, and they got Porzingis. Yeah, those 2 are the top 2 for sure.
And Drew Holiday, too, I think, which was like their counter move to what Milwaukee did with Damian Lillard. And, the thing I mentioned with Porzingis is he ready for the stage, and can he stay healthy? Now, the contenders with questions, I've got 2 teams here, the Cavs and the Heat. I'm high on the Cavs. They won 51 games last season. They learned hard lessons in the playoffs, which I think will go strong going forward. They had a nice offseason filling a need there with Max Strus. I think this is I think Evan Mobley, who could possibly be a defensive player of the year, he takes another step forward here. The Heat are going to be an interesting one here, because we talk about players staying on. They lost Max Strus. They lost Gabe Vincent without a quality replacement. So I think it might actually knock them down a peg. If they had those 2 in there, Nick, I actually put them above, and I would put them along with the Bucks and the Celtics as an actual contender without a question. But like we mentioned, a lot of the reason why teams repeat or stay strong for years is keeping those players together. And those are 2 valuable players that, I know when you guys did your live stream of the NBA Finals this year, you were talking about players like Vincent and Strus a lot. But now without them there, who fills in the void for those guys?
Well, they haven't. You've said it exactly right. They don't have fills for that. Now, Jimmy Butler's kind of going through his ego phase right now with everything that's going on. Like, I wish he would just focus on leading the team and playing basketball. That would be nice, but I know that's not how he is. There was rumors that they might trade for James Harden, which I think would be a mistake. They're going to drop a little because they don't have those role players. They won 44. Excuse me. I don't know if they will do better. I think it's going to be tough with a lot of teams ahead of them, but they will definitely compete like they did over the years. They're a playoff team. They're one of those average teams that are going to make the playoffs every year.
Yeah, I would say that. All right, and then we go to the playoffs or bust, and there's 5 teams, in my opinion, here for playoffs or bust, and that's the Sixers, the Knicks, the Hawks, the Pacers, and the Raptors. And let's start with the Sixers because I know we've talked about this a lot on the Empty the Bench podcast network, but does anyone know how the season's going to turn out in Philadelphia? We've got a Harden-shaped dark cloud that's hanging over this franchise. Every prediction murky. Clearly, they have the MVP in Joel Embiid, and I think he'll be great. And I actually think they have a breakout star in Tyrese Maxey. And Nick Nurse's system, I think, will energize the offense. But I just don't know how that situation with Harden is going to hang over this team this year. I actually think it's going to drop them quite a bit. And I think they're going to be some other teams that benefit from that, including my New York Knicks. I think that's going to be the case. If everything worked out well with Philadelphia, you could even put them up there to a tier higher, which is the contenders with questions. But right now, to me, they are a bottom seed right now. I think they're going to be teams that are going to elevate above them, including the Knicks. And speaking about the Knicks, this is what I would say about them. And I'm going to try and not be biased in saying this here because one of the things I liked about this team is, they didn't go out there and make the big move. They didn't go out there and make many changes to the team. They still got Thibodeau with this coach. They've got Brunson. They've got Randall. They've got Barrett. I mean, a lot of teams are higher on other stars than that, but I think one of the things that makes teams consistent is having a very valuable group of players, and I think they've got that. And I even think they've got the 6th man of the year, and we're going to get that into our predictions. I think they've got a 6th man of the year candidate on the team. Yes, the problem Knicks have right now is they are not on the level. I mean, this is obvious in saying this. They're not on the level of Milwaukee or Boston or even I think they're actually could be better than Miami, but they're not on the Cavs level either because they don't have a star. And stars ultimately will take you over the top. I think they've got a nice group of players that will at least keep them in the playoff discussion this year. So that's what I have it at as far as the Knicks. But before I continue on, let me get your thoughts here on the Sixers and the Knicks.
Yeah, the Sixers are going to drop big time. And I was looking at their number. They're saying 48.5. I think that's if you're a betting person, I would take the under massively. The James Harden cloud is dark and it's going to start raining on the whole team. And a few people might get struck by some lightning at the same time. Joel Embiid needs another star. Needs someone to go to that tandem. You always need 2 guys to really make a team go. And I know they brought in Patrick Beverley. That's not really saying much. I know, he's the spark plug guy. He's not a James Harden. Not a guy that's going to put up points and pass the ball and get it to Embiid. But I've never been a Harden guy. I think Harden is, as my co-host Tom Albano would say, the most overrated star in the NBA. And I agree. So I think they're off big time.
Here's a question, Mark. Here's a question with Philly. How long is this window with them? That's
it's over.
This is like the last shot. If even this is the last year, it might be over with already. Now, with Atlanta and Indy, the reason why I put them in this category is coaching. Quinn Snyder there now with the Hawks. I think he's going to help Trae Young and boost that team a little bit. Indiana with Rick Carlisle, I think you're looking for Tyrese Halliburton to make a leap this season. Bruce Brown, who we talked about the loss on the Nuggets side, I think is going to help Indy side. He gives them wing defense that they need. I don't know what the long-term plan there is in Toronto, but with Pascal Siakam, Scotty Barnes there, I think this roster is too good not to make the playoffs, so I would put them in this category. So that's where I have with those 3 teams.
But you have the contract extension issue with Siakam coming up also. Because I think he's a max guy, I think, coming up in this coming off season. So are they really going to want to pay that? No, I don't think they're going to want to pay that. About the Knicks, because you said that before.
Yeah.
There's a reported trade, and I was telling Johnny this before we started also, that the Knicks are willing to basically trade 75% of the roster or the starting roster to get Joel Embiid, which I would say no by every way, shape, or form. I think that's bad. Why would you trade for a guy that can't really do it on his own and then you wouldn't have a point guard? So I think it's a bad deal.
All right, so let me say this as a Knicks fan here. I did not want to trade those guys for Donovan Mitchell. That was a big talking point last offseason that the Knicks should go get Donovan Mitchell, but I thought the Knicks were smart not getting him. I read something online when the offseason began about them making a play for Karl Anthony Towns, but we're giving up a bunch of players and picks like in that deal. And I didn't want to do that. I do not if I don't want to do that for Donovan Mitchell and for Karl Anthony Towns, there's no way in hell that I want to do it for Joel Embiid. All right?
You're not wrong.
Joel Embiid may be the MVP, but where's all that other production coming from that they're trading away?
They're not.
Guys off the scrap heap. I mean, the thing also with the Knicks, I like Dante DiVincenzo. I think that's also a nice pickup too. But your depth is gone. And Embiid, you always risk his health's also a question mark. So I'm not doing that. I'm sorry. And you can say, well, Johnny, you're never going to go over the hump, but I like the direction this team is going in right now. And again, it's not like the Celtics and the Bucks are going to be doing this for 5-10 years with this.
Well, I don't know about that, but
right.
I think 10 years is a stretch, but like I could see them going on a 5-6 year stretch as long as Lillard and Giannis stay together. Celtics are going to be on a stretch for a while.
The thing with the Knicks also too is, just getting back to them for a second, if you want to criticize Tom Thibodeau for one thing, is that his rotations are not deep. They need to be deeper, because otherwise
you need another 2 or 3 guys.
Well, he needs to play another 2 or 3 guys. I think you kind of saw that in the playoff run against the Heat. Was they did not have depth. They did not use the depth enough, and you saw guys like Jalen Brunson, who had an unbelievable first year there at MSG, tire out. So you do need some other pieces, and I think that's where like the DiVincenzos of the world come in and help in that regard. And maybe the Emmanuel Quickly, so I know didn't sign the extension. That's fine. I think he'll be a 6th man of the year candidate, and you ride that this year. That's what you have to go with there from the Knicks side, but we'll see. And also the hopeful playing team, or in this case teams, Nick, I've got 5. I'm going with the Bulls, the Nets, the Hornets, the Magic, and the Pistons. Now the Bulls believe that they are a team that should be in a tier of rankings, but without Lonzo Ball and with the core group getting older, I think they're fighting for a playoff spot. I'm curious what you see about the Nets here. They have solid talent on the roster. I think we actually saw that after the Durant trade, that Mikal Bridges will have a great season here. Ben Simmons is the biggest question mark to me with the Nets. Is he going to be his old self, or is he going to be what he's been recently? The Hornets, there's talent on the roster, but I don't think this is the 43-win roster of a few years ago. And with Miles Bridges being his own cloud over the team, I'm not sure. The Magic looked outstanding in the second half of the year. Paulo Banchero should take a step forward, and maybe this team takes a step forward into the playoffs this season. Maybe they're a year or 2 out from doing that, but I think they're trending in a way. And Cade Cunningham, I think, will be good this season. Detroit will be in the play-in mix as well.
I think the Nets, I like Bridges, like you said. That was a great piece they got in the trade with KD and the Suns. Bulls, they're a good team. They got to stay healthy. That's a big thing. I would stay away from the Magic. I would sell low on the Magic. I just don't see them going anywhere. That they've been free falling for decades. No one has heard from them. The Hornets, again, they went through the whole public breakup with Michael Jordan in the offseason, ownership wise, at least as a majority owner. And the Pistons, like, they got Cade Cunningham, but he's been hurt. Like, so if I had to pick, it would probably be the Bulls and the Nets. Probably.
Yeah, I have the Nets actually as one of my playing teams, and we'll get to that in just a second. And finally, last but not least, the lottery-bound team in the Eastern Conference goes to the Washington Wizards. They're finally embarking on a rebuild that should have started years ago. And while Kyle Kuzma and others will put up numbers, this is not a team that's going to win much this season.
Yeah, for lottery's sake, yeah, I would say they are up there. They've traded, like I said, they traded Beal. They basically did the Miami Marlins of 2003. Basically, they traded everything away. They got to be the runaway here in every way, shape, or form. I can't think of any other team. Maybe Detroit, but I think Detroit will accidentally win another 10 or so games this year at least. So I think they won't be in last.
Watch for the fall of the Sixers to maybe benefit those 5 playing teams that I was talking to you about. All right, let's get to the Eastern Conference standings here. You could go Celtics, Bucks 1-2, or vice versa. I'm going Celtics 1, Bucks 2. I like the Celtics' depth a little bit more. Maybe the better talent, top 2, is with Milwaukee, but I look at depth pieces too. So I'm going with Boston 1, Milwaukee 2. I'm going to go Cavs 3. And you know what? I might be a little bit of a homer, and this might be a little bit of a reach. I like the Knicks 4. I'm banking on a lot from the same group from last season, but doing that I think has some value. I'm going to go the Heat 5 because of those 2 pieces that they lost. I think that does affect them a little bit. I think coaching helps the Hawks and the Pacers get into the playoffs. I think the Raptors do it at 8. And I do have the Sixers falling into the play-in tournament. They are a mess. They are uncertain. It's going to affect them for a long time. And I think the Nets will also get in as well. So those will be my 2 play-in teams in the East, Nick.
Yeah, so I'm with you. I think Boston will be number 1. I just think they're the most consistent and the most prepared. Then, even with Damian Lillard coming into Milwaukee and being there with Giannis, they're still going to be at least a 2 seed. That team is going to be dominant. Mm-hmm. I probably would go Cavs, maybe 3, just because I think now you have more seasons with Donovan Mitchell in there, getting a little more comfortable. I like some of the pieces. I always forget the guy's name, the guy that they traded for out of the Nets, unless they got him back. I can't remember now. The guy with the fro.
Jared Allen?
Yeah. Didn't they get him back, or did they trade him back again?
I think he's still there.
But I think their team is good. Then I kind of look down the rest. Philly's going to drop out. They're not going to be a 3. They're going to be way down into the playoff inbound tournament. I actually like Miami up higher. Even though I know they lost Vincent, but I just think they're better than some of the teams that are above them from last year. I don't think Atlanta's that great. People keep saying Atlanta's good. I don't think they're as good as people say they are. And they're still trying to figure out what's going on with their roster. I think Trae Young's not happy in Atlanta, to be honest. I think that's just kind of been a held together relationship. And I'll throw this out there as well. I think Trae Young's going to be the next disgruntled star to demand a trade.
It's so funny. I was just going to ask you, do you think he's going to be the next star that's going to ass out?
I could see him demanding a trade somewhere. I don't know where, but I could see him being there. And like I said before, Chicago and the Nets will be play-in bound. I think the Raptors will accidentally be like a 7th seed, like 6, 7, 8 seed, somewhere in there. They don't have a point guard now that Fred VanVleet is gone, but they still have guys like Pascal Siakam still there. Mm-hmm. So I think they'll make the playoffs. They're not going anywhere, but teams got to fill out the playoff conference. So I think they'll make it. And then, like I said before, all the other teams that are at the bottom, I would sell low. So that's how I would see it.
You have Philly missing it entirely?
Yes. Originally I didn't. Now I see them missing because I just think there's going to be way too much black cloud over the Sixers organization.
And the game show reference that we'll use here is where in the world will James Harden land up?
Yeah, really.
And we say world because he could go to the Long Dong Tigers at the end of the day. But let's get to I can't let that go. All right, Nick, let's get to the NBA Finals prediction here, and I'll let you go first. Who do you have making it to the finals, and who do you have winning it this year?
Well, for me, it comes down to, for the conference sake, it's either going to be Milwaukee or Boston. I think one of them is going to win. I think Boston will win again. I just think they have way too much powerhouse. Giannis and Lillard are not enough to win a conference. They're enough to win a regular season. They're going to win a lot of games. I could even see Giannis being the MVP again, possibly this year, now having a second star. But I just think having Tatum and Brown, and now you have a big man in Porzingis, which the Celtics were missing a big man. They really needed someone down low who could rebound and get them some offense, second chance offense opportunities. Excuse me. So I have the Celtics winning the conference. When I look at the West, I think it's gonna come down to Nuggets, Suns, and Warriors. I think it's gonna come down to those three teams. I think the Nuggets are good. I think the Warriors eventually. I think the Suns are going to drop out by the time they get to the conference. But so I think it's going to be Nuggets and Warriors who are going to battle for the conference. And then I think the Nuggets will win. I just think they're a better team because I think the Warriors are just old and it's going to come back mileage wise. So I have the Nuggets and the Celtics. Really, that's where I see it.
Yeah, that's exactly where I have it. I think the Celtics are deeper than the Bucks. That's the thing. Again, the top two are better with the Bucks, but then I ask, all right, where else am I getting that production from Milwaukee? I can get more production. It looks like from more players from Boston's side, I think, than the Bucks. So that's where I have it. I have the Bucks coming out. I mean, the Celtics coming out of the East, and right now with the way the roster is constructed, I just don't see anybody getting past the Nuggets again. I think the Nuggets it's pretty much the same group minus Bruce Brown there in Denver. I think they get back there. And I mean, the best, let's put it this way, if you talk about the best player in the league or the best player out West between the Nuggets and the Suns or any of the other players, the best player of all those is Jokic. So that's why I'm going to go with I'm going to take the Nuggets to come out of the West. And I think the Nuggets repeat. We have not seen this in a very, very long time, but I think the Nuggets will hoist their second consecutive Larry O'Brien trophy.
Another wild card I'll throw out there is Aaron Gordon also.
Yep. That's true. So, I mean, I just think there's too much there for Denver. I think they have just enough. So I'm going to take Denver out of the I'm going to take it as a Denver Boston final, and I'm going to take the Nuggets to repeat as NBA champions, something we have not seen in professional sports in a long time. So that's where we're going to go with here out of there. And then let's just get to a couple of quick award picks before we get out of here. NBA MVP, I'm going to take Nikola Jokic for the third time.
It's not a bad pick. I think Giannis will get a lot of votes this year also just because of Lillard. Now, I think Jokic will have to do it more on his own because he's going to have to carry the team every night. And because what was it? He was averaging a triple-double at one point last season. I mean, it was kind of nuts, his numbers. And I think in the playoffs, he had, 3 or 4 consecutive triple-doubles?
Yeah, it was crazy. But you also saw that duo. That's the thing. If you look at it even from a duo side, it looks like a Giannis Lillard duo will be great, but don't discount the duo with Murray that he had there last year, Jokic.
Yeah, Murray was great. I think he's really one of the big reasons they won the title last year. Even though Jokic puts up the numbers, Murray is the catalyst.
Yeah,
one of my favorite words, by the way. From
Yep.
But I don't know. This is a tough. It's going to be between Giannis and Jokic, and I think you're right. I think Jokic probably will do more offensively to carry. So I'll go with you. I think Jokic will win the MVP.
Yeah, that is all fair. Rookie of the year, who do you go with?
Oh man, who do you have? Because I had to study this a little bit.
Let's put it this way. I was trying to find a way not to pick who I picked, and I couldn't do it. I got to go with Wembanyama. I think Scoot would be close, but I think Wembanyama just looks like the real deal. And even if he has a couple of reality moments, I just think he looks too good. I mean, you have to think about it too, and you would say this. This is the most hyped guy to come out of to be in the NBA since LeBron.
Yes, that I agree with totally.
So it's hard for me. It's if you had to put money on, I mean, it's almost like he's like a one. I would say he's like a 1 to 9 shot.
So I have it here. So Victor Wembanyama is a -160 favorite, which is a runaway.
And that's I mean, barring some freak injury, we hope that doesn't happen. I got to go with Wembanyama.
I mean, I'm looking at the rest of the list. Scoot Henderson, Chet Holmgren, who's technically a rookie because he didn't play. Mm-hmm. Let's see, Brandon Miller, Amon Thompson, Jarice Walker. No, it's going to be Wembanyama. Wembanyama is going to be the runaway unless he underperforms or gets hurt really badly and misses the whole season, like a Greg Oden type situation. He's going to win the Rookie of the Year. Not even close.
Chet's going to be a very cool story, though, and I think he might be a little bit rusty in the beginning because, he missed the whole year last year. That was such an unfortunate thing, but I think he's going to have moments, but he might start off slow. Wembanyama doesn't look like he's starting off slow at all, so that's what I'm going to go with. Coach of the year, I'm going to go with a dark horse. Give me Rick Carlisle with the Indiana Pacers.
Really? I didn't expect you to throw that out.
So when I think of coaches of the year, and I do this with a lot of the sports, I always look for a guy that takes that surprises a lot of teams in a great way, or maybe transforms a team with a huge jump. Like we saw in baseball, Bruce Bochy, what he did with the Texas Rangers, where they went from 69 wins to 102 and going to the World Series. That's like that kind of guy. But I also look for a guy that takes the team to surprising levels. So I think Carlisle does that. I think Quinn Snyder could be a close second there with the Hawks, but I think Rick Carlisle steps in there with Indiana, and I think the Pacers are going to be one of those teams that makes a jump this year.
So I'll give you an odds list because I'm a gambling guy, so I like looking at it. Mark, I can never pronounce his name. Mark D'Agnielt, the OKC coach.
He, in my opinion, was second.
So he's number one according to the betting odds. Then you have Adrian Griffin for the Bucks, but I feel like that one's too easy because he's got two big stars on his roster, so I don't think it'll be him. You have Spoelstra for the Heat, Missoula for the Celtics, Malone for the Nuggets. I don't think, again, because he won, I don't think he'll be able to win Coach of the Year. I think once you win, it's tough to win Coach of the Year.
Unless you win 70 games this year.
Right. Nick Nurse, I would stay away from the Sixers. Frank Vogel for the Suns, stay away from that. Taylor Jenkins, stay away from the Grizzlies. So I think the dark horse is Missoula with the Celtics. I think. So I'm going to lean there because I think the Celtics might take a step further and win this year. So I'm going to go Missoula in a dark horse pick.
Yeah, it's not a bad pick either. There's the one thing we didn't bring up during the NBA offseason was all the head coaching changes that happened this year. There were a lot of them, and some of them you rattled off right there. Sixth man of the year. This is always a tough one. I know you look up that list. I'm going, and maybe again I might be a little bit of homer in saying this. I'm going with Emmanuel Quickley of my New York Knicks. He's going to be motivated to play this year for a contract. I think that Thibodeau is going to have to extend the rotations a little bit more this year for the Knicks to be as successful, and I think that benefits a guy like Quickley.
Hey Johnny, guess what? You're right on the spot. That's number one on the odds list.
Nice. Okay, and I'll be honest with you, I didn't even look at the odds list.
So Quigley is plus 800 at the top, which is not great, but it's still considered the top. It's him and Malcolm Brogdon, both tied at the top for six man.
That's another good one, yeah.
Norman Powell, Derek White. I happen to like Derek White. I think that's going to be an underrated guy for the Celtics this year. Malik Monk with the Kings, Bobby Portis of the Bucks. Bobby Portis has been really good, by the way. People forget. Rui Hachimura, the Lakers, and Chris Paul. Chris Paul has potential for sixth man of the year.
I almost went with him too, but the reason that I think, and it was even before the situation with the contract. I just feel like he's going to have more of a role. Quigley's going to take a step up this year because of the team this year. But Chris Paul in that spot. I just wonder how many minutes, sometimes with sixth man of the year, it also depends on how many minutes you're going to play. How many minutes is Chris Paul going to play there in Golden State behind?
Is he going to start? Is he going to be the second unit? We don't know.
He might get more starts, and that might hurt his sixth man value too.
Well, no, because if he's not a starter, you could still be sixth man of the year, as long as you're not full-time starter.
Yeah, or you do like an opener where you have a starter, you have somebody that starts, plays 5 minutes, and he'll come in and play 37.
All right, baseball. We don't need you in the NBA.
NBA, though, it makes more sense to do that than it actually would make more sense in the NBA to do that.
You know what? I'm going to go dark horse. I think Chris Paul could be sixth man of the year.
I like it. Oh, that's a very good one. All right, let me give you two more here. Defensive player of the year. Now, that's
a good one.
Yeah, this guy I'm going with was third in the voting last year. I think he continues to grow. It's somebody brought up earlier. Evan Mobley.
Okay, he's number two.
Okay.
Jaren Jackson, obviously being the defending champion, is number one.
Right.
I think that's going to be a problem, though, because, again, they're not fully forced as a team. So him playing defense is not going to win games. I think he's going to overplay defense, and that's going to affect his opportunities to win. I like Mobley. He was good last year. They have Giannis up there as number 3 at Defensive Player of the Year odds.
That's an interesting one.
And Bam. Oh, wait. So they have Giannis at 3, Bam at 4, and Anthony Davis at 5, and Embiid at 6.
Well, maybe Embiid's going to have to do more, but does that really...
I don't like that one, though, to be honest.
I don't know. We'll find out. And finally, most improved player. Let me see. You have the list up there?
I'm getting it now.
All right. Because I have my guy. And I'll see
who
where he
you got.
I'm going with Cade Cunningham.
Okay, he's number 4.
Okay, so not bad.
My Brooklyn Nets the top of this list. Mikal Bridges is number 1 for most improved player. I don't know if I agree with that, but
a full year there. Okay.
So they have Tyrese Maxey of the Sixers, number 2. They have Jordan Poole, number 3 with Washington. I don't know if I agree with that one.
Well, he had a down year last year. I could see that. And if there was another category I would put in here, I would say breakout player. Actually, Tyrese Maxey would be my breakout player this year.
Yeah, but they're not going to go anywhere.
Well, the mess that Philly's in might actually, from an individual,
it might benefit Maxey to play better.
Yeah, from an individual standpoint, and Maxey, you saw actually have some moments there for Philly last year, but the mess they are maybe benefits him and only him. So that's what I would go with. But I'm still going to take Cunningham there as my guy.
Yeah, I think the Pistons will be much more improved now that he's healthy and not having issues off the court. But I don't know. I think I agree with you. I think I like Maxey also. I think that because he was not getting the ball when Harden and Embiid were playing. Like, he pretty much was a forgotten guy. He's now going to come out and say, hey, I'm here. Watch me. So I'm going to go with Maxey.
Well, we'll find out. Well, this is an exciting time. Basketball is back. You've got baseball just about to wrap up here. Obviously, we're right in the thick of football, both college and pro. So you're going to see us a lot here over the next several days and weeks to come. In fact, you're going to see me a bunch this week. Hopefully, you all don't get tired of me. But let me give you the schedule for this upcoming. Well, first and foremost, before I give you my schedule, let me tell you how you can get react to all this. First off, you can check us out on our YouTube channel at youtube.com/ETB Network, where if you like our Monty Moments and all of our content, leave us a like. If you're new, hit that subscribe button and make sure you click that notification bell so you know when all of our stuff is going to be coming out. You can check us out on our website at etbpodcast.com. Great blog posts from all of our ETB talent on everything happening in sports and the real world and fantasy and picks. All that stuff is there. If you can't watch us on YouTube, check us out wherever you get your favorite podcasts on your favorite podcast platform, whether that's Acast, iHeart, Spotify, wherever you get your favorite podcast, we are there for you. And also you can follow us on our account at GameOnETB on Facebook and X, GameOn_ETB on Instagram. Also, you can check me out on X and Instagram at Montalbano NY. So a big week upcoming here for the Monty Moment and for the ETB Network. So coming up this week on Wednesday, we are going to do our NFL one, coming up on week number 8 already of the season, where we'll look back at week 7, preview the Thursday night game between the Bucs and the Bills, and so much more. Now, with this week, some things are going to change. Thursday, we are actually going to get you ready for the World Series. So that's going to come up on Thursday, which means that's going to push our college football Monty Moment to Friday. Yes, we're going to do 4 Monty Moments this week because there's so much going on. So Friday will be the college football one, and there's a lot happening in college football, including that big story happening in Michigan. So we'll give you the latest on that. And, of course, if that's not enough, Nick and I will be a part of a big Football Friday show that's coming up this Friday. That's going to be at noon Eastern and 9 a.m. Pacific. Our partners with Wolf Spread will be there as well. So check that out. We'll have a lot more coming up there on the Friday afternoon show. So a doubleheader on Friday, and it's a big football week coming up as well. So, Nick, a ton of stuff to talk about. I know this is an exciting time. You love this time of the year where we're going to have a little bit of a sports equinox happening. Now, we won't have a sports equinox on Sunday because there's no World Series game, but nevertheless, it's still a great time of the year. We probably will have a sports equinox next Monday, I believe, because you have the Monday night and the World Series game. So that's what we have to look forward to. So, Nick, thanks for jumping on. I know you're a big basketball fan, so this is you're like a little kid at Christmas when it comes to stuff like this, right?
Like it's like what you were saying before we were doing this. It's like the Jets and Giants. It's like my Super Bowl. I'm ready to go.
Yeah, and unfortunately, when our favorite teams are struggling, and you have to look forward to the next sport, it's kind of rough. But I'm actually a bigger Knicks fan than any of the other teams that I root for. So it's always extra exciting. And when the team looks good and you have a little bit of expectation, it does have a different feel to it. And so we'll see what happens. Good luck to your Nets. Good luck to your favorite teams at home. Yep. Let's go Knicks. That's what I would say to that. So going to see you a bunch here this week. So for Nick Morgasen, I'm Johnny Montalbano. This has been a Monty Moment here on the Empty the Bench Podcast Network.